Hey, what's up guys? In this video I'm gonna show you how to exchange the M24 stock to the M40 stock. First of all, we need to remove the stock of the M24. So if you have a bipod, remove it. Then we remove the screw here in the back. Wait, let me flip that down so you can see it. So we have to remove the 3 screws. So bipod stud and the 2 screws on the trigger guard. Then you open those 2. And number 3, here in front, the bipod stud is another connection point to the outer barrel receiver assembly. And there we go. Now here we don't need those screws anymore. Those you can leave inside the stock. But we need the trigger guard. And we also need the bipod stud. This piece right here. Okay, then we remove the stock from the assembly by pressing into the mag well with your thumb, and then we don't need the stock anymore. Alright, your M40 stock will come with this manual right here. In the back you have all the parts, all the necessary screws. So open that up, take out the screws, and the first things we need are those 2 thumb screws right here. They're coming into separate bags, so open those bags, take out the screws, 1, then the second one, and then you screw them either into the right side here of the cheek rest or the left side. If you're right-handed like me, you should put them on the right side. If you're left-handed, you put them on the left side. So in my case, I put them in on the right side, just screw them in, no tools needed. And those screws are here so you can adjust the height of the cheek rest and then fix it down. Okay, we don't need those plastic bags anymore. Then you open the next bag, and here are the rest of the screws and the O-rings and a spacer. Okay. If you want to install the M40A3 front accessory rail, you already have to remove, before installing the receiver barrel assembly, you have to remove this green part right here. If you don't have the accessory rail, you can skip this part. Therefore, you remove those 2 screws here with the included Allen key. Allen key is included in the rail. So you remove those 2. Then you take out the piece, and you will still need those screws. So take them out. You don't need this piece anymore. And then you put that metal piece right in here. Should fit perfectly. Put the screws back in and screw it in there. You don't have to tighten those screws like crazy, just, tighten them gently, not that you break anything. Now that this part is installed, the next step is removing this part right here. So just slide it to the back, pull it out. We don't need this anymore, but we need the longer version. So just slide it into this key mode system right here, and now we have to assemble everything together. Just put it inside there and make sure that the stud goes into the hole here in front. Okay, let me see. Align everything, just put it in there. Make sure that it's straight, otherwise it will jam. And there we go, just put it together. Now everything should be flush inside and clean, tidy and nice looking, the way it should be. Then you turn the rifle around, and the first thing you want to install is the bipod stud. Just screw it in there, tied it down with the Allen key. And the next thing you want to install is the trigger guard. Now there's 2 different ways. There is the one where there's no modification needed. There you use those O-rings, and there's a second variant, which is the one that I prefer. There you need a file, but let me show you that later. First of all, the drop-in fit method. You take the trigger guard, you take the short screw here in front, the long screw here in the back. Then you take one of those O-rings. They go here onto the screw. So right in there. And then one of them goes together with the spacer here to the front. Put it above the thread, and there we go. Just put the trigger guard in there. And here the trigger guard is a very tight fit, so maybe we have to wiggle a little bit, press it in there, but I wanted to make it really, really tight. There's no play. Okay, that one goes inside. All right, and now you tighten down those two screws. Number 1 and number 2. Okay, there we go. Now the M40 is already installed, so everything should work perfectly. You can shoot, safety works, you can adjust the hop up, and you can also insert the magazine just like on the SSG24. So there we go. This is the first variant, that's the easy one. Now you can also, drop on the front accessory rail, tie it down. But before, let me show you the method that I prefer. Because right now, as you can see here, we have a little gap here, which, it doesn't look perfectly. I like to modify it here a little bit to make it look a little bit cleaner. Therefore, you remove the trigger guard again by loosening those two screws. And also the one in the back. Now, when you remove the O-ring here in the back, and that's what we want for this modification, the trigger guard will move a little bit further down. As you will see right now, just push it in there. And now, it might be a problem that the trigger touches the trigger guard. So let's tie it down so I can show you. If we tie it down now, it will happen that first of all, when I pull the trigger, I will hit the trigger guard. And the second thing is that the adjustment screw of the trigger also hits the trigger guard. But then, it's completely flush. It just looks a little bit better. So if you want to do this variant, what you have to do is you mark with a pencil the spot where the trigger adjustment screw touches the trigger guard. So right here. And that's really it. Then you can remove it again. Just, untighten the screw. Remove the trigger guard. And then what you want to do is you take a file, like this one. Any metal file will work. And you just sand down the trigger guard or file down the trigger guard on this part a little bit. So right here where you mark the spot. So you file it down a little bit so that there's a little gap between the adjustment screw right here and the trigger guard. So that you can still adjust it even when the screws are tightened. Then the next thing you want to do is file down the trigger a little bit. Maybe 1 millimeter, maybe 1.5. Just file it down a little bit, so when you assemble it onto the rifle, when you tie it down, that the trigger has enough space to move. And there we go. That's the better method again. That's how I recommend it. Just looks a little bit cleaner. Don't just remove the O-ring and tie it down, because maybe you can break the trigger guard exactly on the point where it hits the adjustment screw. Now the last thing we want to do is installing the front accessory rail. Now I'm gonna install the bipod back so it's a little bit easier to show. There we go. Just put on the rail like this. Now on the real one, the extended piece is on the right side, but you can, do it however you want to have it. Then you use those 6 screws right here, the stainless steel ones, and just put them into those holes, tie it down, and you are pretty much done. All right, and there we go. Here's your M40, works, just like the SSG, smooth bolt pull, safety works, hop-up works. You can insert the magazine just the way it should be. Now here in the back of the stock, you can adjust the length to pull. Just use an Allen key, screw those screws a little bit out. Then you can flip out those spaces right here, so you can adjust it to the length to pull. There's a video in the NOVRITSCH Academy where I show you how to adjust it. And yeah, what else is to know? Here you can adjust the height of the cheek rest, you know, just by raising the cheek rest right here, tight it down again. And that's pretty much everything you need to know about the M40 stock. Front accessory rail is really handy for mounting, you know, different devices like a zoom cam, and everything else is pretty much the same. You have the QD sling mounts, so make sure to use those. They're just way more handy than the sling mounts on the SSG, and the Bipod stud, of course. All right, that's it. That's your M40. If you have any questions or any problems, write me a mail to info@novritsch.com and let me know how it worked. Maybe you can send me some pictures via mail, and I'm excited to see your guys' SSG builds.